A very warm welcome along, everybody, and a pleasure to have you joining us once again here on the Big Five Racing Podcast. As we enter into the deeper part of the April, we continue again our domestic hybrid coverage with exciting group contests over the next few days from Newmarket and Newbury. Fantastic race courses to watch racing from. We've also got the Scottish National card to look forward to this weekend with yet another very good Irish invasion. Excited to be able to break that one down. And before all of that, of course, we will be looking back at the best of the action from the Grand National Festival, notably history being made by the now great Am Maximus. Doing so in the company as ever, our president, tipster Harry Cottrell, and racing purist Matty Blackmore. Cotty, one place to kind of start this week. I laid you a 40-1 bet last week from Liverpool that Ely Francais and Croke Park would get round. You took a fiver, I was happy to honour it. Don't think my arse has ever gone like that before in a race where I didn't watch a minute of the winner. That was part of a sort of a mixed hybrid from Aintree, but I managed to sneak a fiver off you and then lose it in the next race. How was your Aintree?
Well, that probably just about summed it up, to be honest. The closest I got to a winner was backing two horses, not to complete. One pulled up and one trailed in last of 18 and beat about 398 lengths. So yeah. The side bet was the closest I went to at Aintree of remotely hitting profit. Me Grand National pick that I was the one I fancied the most in a long time. Fell at the first, got bumped at the start and fell at the first. Salvatore Mundi got beat by a 50-1 rag. Just a shambles for 3 days, really, to be quite frank.
Yeah, it was a very brutal battle for quite a lot of people. Some favourites did go in. Obviously, if you were on the likes of Brighter Days Ahead, Django Bay, you could have made yourself a nice week. Unfortunately, we were not. Matty, apology owed to you very off the start here. I said your beloved Worcestershire would get cracked by Middlesex at Lords. You beat them in 3 days, and the Pairs all of a sudden are on the charge back into Division 1.
I know, yeah, kind of regretting the choice not to go down there, but they put in a good show, and might be an interesting little battle between us and Lancs this year for Div 2. So I'm sure that'll keep us both interested.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Lancs got their 4th win in the last 4 years there the other day, so happy weekend for me. Back to the racing firstly, though, and you wanted to allude to this, and it was a very fair point that we did. It was confirmed over the weekend, I think it was on the Sunday, Dan Skelton finally manages to get his Champions Trainers title. I don't know if he has surpassed 5 million yet, but he's on his way to doing so in the next few weeks, and you'd be the right man to talk from this. You've got experience from being at the yard for so long, and this was something that was aimed at, like it was the hammering thing, wasn't it, from the start of every season for the last few years. They didn't care about Harry getting his jockey's title back or anything like that. It was a case of, we need to get Dan over the line, and all he has done all year is produce big winners, not necessarily graded winners, but he's won massive handicap prices. He won the Coral, of course, earlier in the year. He won the Cheltenham Paddy Power. It's been an unbelievable season for him, and for a lot of people, this is incredibly deserved.
Yeah, exactly like you say. This has been, in the motions for many seasons now, and he's probably just lacked a bit of, the quality in horse to do so in the last couple of years. Of course, he's been beaten by, the freak that's Willie Mullins, so it's not been through lack of trying. But I think this year he's came out and done plenty of interviews, and I think they're really interesting to listen to. That Willie set the bar, and knew he had to go higher, and he did, and they nailed 4 million in prize money a couple of weeks back, and that's he's the first British trainer to ever do that. So I think he's just he's really taken everything to a new level this year. He's been relentless. The race planning, etc., has been superb, and it's hard to see who's going to knock him off that perch for the years and years to come. He's extremely powerful. He's got the backing of some of the biggest owners in jump racing now, and absolutely flying. So a massively deserved achievement, and like I say, I think it will be the first of many to come.
Yeah, hugely talented individual is Dan. I've always been, respectful of, there's different things that go on, isn't there, with the whole, horses, marks and things like that. But the ultimate thing you can say about Dan is his positioning for races and everything is just pure genius. And it's an incredibly well-deserved title. So congratulations there to Dan. Right, that was achieved in essence by what he was able to do across the week from Aintree. He had a fantastic couple of days there, notably on the Saturday. It looked like at one stage he wasn't going to lose a race. And that is where we will start this week with the Big Five, and that is with an Aintree recap.
Wish I could go back to lying beside you on the bed. I could pick it up.
Fantastic couple of days racing there at Aintree up in Liverpool over the weekend. Maybe not necessarily the most profitable for us, but the racing nevertheless was incredibly enjoyable. We're going to take you through a selection of graded races that we covered from last week, and then of course move on to the Grand National itself. We'll take you all the way back to the Thursday. Then the first race we covered was the Aintree Bowl. That was won by the even money favourite. There wasn't too many of those over the week, but Django Bay, who got into a fantastic tussle with Am Maximus, who fell, I believe, at 2 out, handed the race to Django Bay and eventually won it by 16 lengths to Protectorat. I attempted to watch this race, Cotty, on the train. Unfortunately, I hit that part of the country where I was unable to, so your take on the ball is going to be much better than mine. But Django Bay was second in the Gold Cup. You were keen on him here, and he backed it up.
Yeah, I think this was the only winner I think I had over 3 days. So yeah, I enjoyed watching this one. I thought maybe after a couple of fences, it didn't get into the best of rhythm. Whether that was down to Nico the race before falling off, Lalambri might have just been second guessing himself. Maybe a couple of mixed messages, or the run at Cheltenham leaving its mark early doors, but seemed to snap out of that quite quickly and found himself to jump better throughout the race. Coming to 2 out with Impere Pass, I think someone said Impere Pass was about 2 to 5, I think, at the time he fell. But on the side camera, when they were just about to jump it, you could kind of see Nico kind of give the horse a little tap with the reins on its neck, and it went, it looked like it would just come alive, and then went about, I think it was probably about a length, 3/4 of a length foot before Impere Pass came down. I think it would have been a good finish. It was probably too hard to say. Django Bay would have won and vice versa, but I thought I've seen a few people say that Impere Pass definitely would have won. I mean, I don't know how you can possibly say that. Django Bay stays the trip very well, and stays trips further. So yeah, for people to say that is quite baffling to me. But yeah, ruined a good finish, but good to see Paul and horse up okay, and I think Protectorat came in second, didn't it?
He did, yeah, and that's probably Django Bay's season booked in now. I can imagine that it's going to be a full campaign over 3 miles next season. We'll see him in those big handicaps, possibly a Betfair. See him around Christmas time in a King George, perhaps again. There's an obvious target here with Django Bay that he will be going back to the Gold Cup in a year's time. Quite alluded to it there, Matt. He Protectorat second again. He made a lot of the. He seemed to be very up there at the start, fell back, and then managed to fold himself back into second again. Be a sort of a modest effort, if nothing better than that, from the 11-year-old. But it's nice to see horses like that with a bit of rejuvenation, because he owes the game nothing, does he? And it's good prize money once again for Dan to pick up.
Yeah, exactly. A brilliant bit of placing again from Dan. I mean, I think he would have been fully aware this horse wasn't going to be good enough to win it. He probably knew he'd give it all, which that horse always does. But if you're not in it, you can't win it. He didn't win it, but he picked up the second place prize money. I'm not sure what he's earned this season, Protectorat himself, but it's a hell of a lot for a horse that's turning 11. So, and I imagine he'll be back next year for it again. Yeah, I think it hard to say with Impere Pass. My first thoughts were that he looked like he come there, traveling really well. We know he finds. I suppose the trip's probably a little bit of a question mark. So we didn't know if he'd stay or not. I just thought Django Bay had a hard race in the Gold Cup, and I feel like Impere Pass might have been able to exploit any tiredness that was there from Django Bay, but in the end it wasn't to be. And I imagine Impere Pass will probably go again at Punchestown. And yeah, like you say, Django Bay, I imagine he'll probably be seen. Wouldn't be sure where he'd come out. It'd be unlike Nicky to go to a Betfair Chase if it was really soft, but if the ground wasn't too bad, maybe a Betfair Chase is a good shout. I think, like you say, King George is a nailed on. He obviously ran really well in it last year, and the Gold Cup will be the main aim. I still think he's just got to brush up on his jumping if he wants to be a real Gold Cup horse. I know he was second, but he was well beaten, and he's got to find a bit of improvement to catch Gaelic Warrior, and maybe it's going to have to be in the jumping department because he just still isn't the slickest. But he's still a maturing horse, and there's no reason that he can't find that improvement.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. Youth was on his side, and his stamina is always incredibly well tested, and he backs it up every single time. That's now 2-3 good runs in a row over 3 miles, so no issues there, but it would be nice to see his jumping go a little bit better in the next season. Over to the 2 mile hurdlers, the most dramatic division of the last 5 years, and sort of firmed up by the fact that Brighter Days Ahead was 5-2 when we started doing the podcast last week, went off the eventual 13-8 favourite for Gordon Elliott, and Jigginstown House Stud beat the New Line by 2.25. Electra trailed in third, and El Fabiola, probably the disappointment of the race, finished dead last. Brighter Days Ahead kind of firms up the idea, Cotty, that the 2 mares in the 2 miles, 2.5 mile divisions of them, and are the ones that you've got to come and beat. She was second at Cheltenham, the best performance we've seen from her. It has been her best season, of course, for the last 12 months, and this felt, if nothing else, a little bit deserved, and she did everything right. She was right up there at the start, as she typically is in her races, and she bided her time. Stuck Harry Skelton, Jack Kennedy stuck Harry Skelton right up that rail, wasn't allowing any movement out, and eventually was just the best of the finishers.
Yeah, I think the ride probably won this race more than anything. It's a Jack Kennedy at his very best, and Harry Skelton probably not so. But you can't get it right every time. I actually thought the horse to take out the race was probably Alexi. I was quite impressed, but only beaten 3 or 4 lengths. Was fairly keen throughout the race. Made a couple of niggly errors, and then got a bit short of room inside the half furlong. I mean, the shortness of room would never have challenged the first 2, but instead of getting beat 3 or 4 lengths, it might have been 2 or 3 lengths. And I just think going into next season, you'll have your big names at the top of the market, and rightly so, like your Lossie Mouse and Brighter Days Ahead. But I think this horse will keep on filling the frames and will always be a decent enough price. And I think if one of these mares were to slip up, which we've seen happen, Brighter Days Ahead doesn't always run a race as such, or Lossie Mouth has failed before. There will be a Grade 1 in Alexi for sure next season, I think.
Interesting, yeah. Started the season off winning the Greatwood Hurdle and just seems to have been on an upward trajectory since then. The New Lion, frustrating back for me, Matty. I put money down on the New Lion. I thought if there's ever going to be a day that he proves to himself he is at this top table of 2 mile, 2.5 milers, this was the race to go and win and do it well. I don't know. I'm not going to start criticizing rides because I haven't sat on a horse in about 10 years, and even then that was on a beach. So I don't think I'm in any position to talk about the ride that Harry Skelton gave. But there is obviously, like I think Cotty said it there, the ride probably won this race and then lost the race, and I wouldn't completely give up on the New Lion.
I have a bit of a different opinion looking back on it now. I just think that perhaps the New Lion's not as good as we all thought. I think that you run that race again, and if Harry either got the rail or didn't make the mistake, I think all he'd have done is push Brighter Days Ahead to the line. She was, she wouldn't have stopped, and I think, it was her day. That's her trip and her race. And as for the New Lion, yeah, he's just become disappointing for me. I was like you. I thought this was going to be his day, really, stamp his authority on the division and, open plenty of doors next year. I think they're still going to end up leaning towards the Stayers Hurdle next March. What the preparation up towards that looks like, I have no idea, to be honest. I'm not sure where they'll start. I don't think they'll go back to Newcastle after last year. It didn't really go too well for him up there. I almost just thought that obviously he did take that fall in the fighting fifth. They ran him in the international, and Harry taught him a lot that day about, jumping, and he made sure he got in tight. And it almost looked to me as if he'd been taught to be jumped too safe, and then when Harry needed him at 2 out at Aintree, he just put down and didn't want to come up for the long stride. So yeah, a head scratcher really, but I'm kind of leaning towards the view that the new line's not as good as we thought, and brighter days ahead. She's a very good mare, and she's had a much smoother run this season. She had a couple of issues last year, and didn't go to plan at Cheltenham. And she was beat there by Lossiemouth this year, which is, that's not a bad result at all. But talks of her going chasing next year, I'm not so sure. I still think she's got plenty to offer over hurdles. But she's a big man. She's got plenty of size, but yeah, I'm not too sure. And by the sounds of it, Gordon Elliott doesn't even sound too sure himself. So I'm sure that'll be decided over the summer. But she was very good. It was her day, and Jack Kennedy was at his very best.
Yeah, as he so often is, champion jockey from Ireland last season, and nice to see that he's been able to sort of have a sustained injury-free campaign. Really, that's the most important thing for him.
I don't know if did anyone see he had a ride on Wexford on Friday, I think it was, and you might have seen this, and he was clinging on round the horse's neck. He'd lost both his irons, and it looked like destined for a horrible fall, and he somehow got back on. It was pretty remarkable, but you just think the luck that chap's had, it could have been really bad, but no, he managed to survive anyway.
Did you watch Wexford on Friday, Cotty? Just out of human interest?
1 or 2 races. I don't remember seeing that, though. I would have remembered if I was to see it, so now I must have missed that.
Type it in on Twitter, Jack Kennedy, Wexford tonight, and just have a look. It's pretty remarkable.
Lovely. Bit of evening viewing for you there. Brighter days ahead. Jack Kennedy took the Aintree hurdle. 2 more to take you through from before the National. The first of those is the Melling Chase from the Friday, and it was our old pal, Grey Dawning, at 5-1, rejuvenated as he went back to 2.5 miles, fended off the ever-game Solness by a neck to win that one. Hartwood, a distant third. So we're going to have to start with you then, Matty, with Grey Dawning, and it was a bit upsetting, I suppose. We've got obviously a private group chat, and we've all been very much affectionate towards this horse for a very, very long time. Didn't see a single bet come in for him, and my God, I thought to myself, like, I've probably been on this horse every time he's run for the last 5 years. The first time I wasn't on, goes and returns a very nice 5-1, and he was unbelievably game to fend off Solness.
Yeah, brilliant. This was a race that almost got me a bit emotional watching it, to be honest. I thought, what a battle he had with Solness. I mean, we spoke about, obviously, Dan Skelton earlier, but brilliant bit of placing. I mean, to go back to 2.5, first time cheek pieces on. And, I think you mentioned Harry, not being at his greatest on the new line, and that's an opinion a lot of people have had as well. But he was absolutely at his best on Grey Dawning. I mean, he was just perfect. He got up the rail, huge jump from the horse 2 out, which he needed. And one thing you do always get from Harry, he's very strong in a finish, and he had to be. Solness was really game. I mean, 2 horses wearing cheek pieces, you'd expect one of them to sort of throw the towel in. They both were relentless, and that was a brilliant race. Brilliant to see the horse back to form. We spoke about his chances in the bowl. That's where it looked like he was going, and we were pretty dismissive. I think he had a hard race in the Gold Cup, and before his form at Aintree's not always been the best, but brilliant to see him turn it around, and he's opened up a whole new door for next season over 2.5 miles. But I imagine you'll still see him in that Betfair Chase as his first run, and then I'm not really sure where they'll go with him. But great to see him back in the winners' enclosure, and a really good ding dong with Solness, who put up a great performance as well.
Yeah, very, very heartfelt from all of us down here in the south. This kind of starts, like Matty said there, Cotty, about mapping towards next season. Dan came out just after the Gold Cup and said he's likely going to be a Ryanair contender next year over 2.5. So it made sense to go for the Melling over the Bowl. I know he probably will go back up to 3 miles for the Betfair because it looks a bit of an ominous target these days. That you don't get many Irish challengers come over, and if the likes of a Django Bay doesn't turn up, it's kind of his to lose again, isn't it? The same as last season. You would get the impression, though, this could possibly be next season, as a 10-year-old, Grey Dawnings' opportunity to really fire in the big 2.5 mile grade ones all year long.
Yeah, I mean, was very solid on Friday. I think Hartwood definitely underperformed. I think the effects of Cheltenham definitely had its soul on that horse. I think after two fences, I thought well, I knew my money was lost after two fences. He just looked like he wasn't really enjoying himself, and he's normally quite a strong traveller, isn't he? So yeah, I suppose after that you look at Solness, and obviously the step up to 2 mile 4. You see he's a bully over the 2 miles, especially in Ireland when he goes off hammer and tongue. I think when they were up sides, Grey Dawning at the last, I was more surprised. The winning margin more than anything. I thought, Grey Dawning's stamina would kick into overdrive, and Solness, like Matty said, cheap pieces on, kind of just coming to the end of the tether, throw the towel in. But no, it wasn't to be. It was a very good finish, but you'd have to think the likes of, if John Bon was there, or someone like that, or your Factor Files or something who's proven at 2 mile 4. That was favourite for the Ryanair, so he's still not out the picture over the 2 mile 4. I think it's still a very competitive division, and every horse is lucky to win a Grade One. So yeah, I'm not sure Grey Dawn will be dominant in all the Grade Ones over 2 mile 4, as you've just said. But if you can pick one or two up along the way, then it's a very good season, I think.
Yeah, if Dan continues his fantastic targeting with this horse, I think that there will be opportunities for him to win. Whether he can win a Ryanair, I'm not going to make that prediction in the middle of April, but he definitely seems like he's going to be one of the contenders, if not the most strong for the home team. Jet 2, Liverpool Hurdle to finish off the Big Five from last week. If there was any doubt about coming out of the Stayers Hurdle from Cheltenham, who the best stayer was this year, and of course nobody would have had their money on it being an 11-year-old, it was defined brilliantly by Home by the League, JJ Slevin, Joseph O'Brien, and the team there. They won the Liverpool Hurdle by 7 lengths to take no chances. Honesty Policy, the favourite in the end, 8 lengths back in third behind a pair of Rob Core horses. Home by the Lee, Matty. If you want romance in the sport, look no further. 11 years of age, and he's running like he's in first season of Open Company. He's been having a brilliant time lately. He'll go to Punchestown, of course, in a few weeks, take on Tia Hoopu and a couple of others. I wasn't on him this day, but I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to lay him half as hard as I have been recently. There's new life about this horse, and he was just brilliant from the front again.
Yeah, he really was. JJ Slevin, very good on him as well. And I think testament to Joseph O'Brien. I mean, I think he has around 20 to 25 jump horses in. He landed the Grade One, the Sefton with Zeus Power anyway. That one really nicely. Obviously, Jordan's ran very well in the National. He's got the favourite for the Scottish National, which we're about to talk to. And so for a trainer that's very select with his National Hunt horses, he has a bloody good record with them. And I said in the chat, didn't I? I said I wish I'd love to see him with a full stable of 100, 120 jump horses. He could probably be up there with the likes of Gordon, Henry, the Bromhead. Probably not Willie. I think Willie's in his own league, but he could really be up there. But no, but yeah, credit to Joseph. He does a brilliant job with the ones he sends over. Very rarely run bad races, and the fact he's got an 11-year-old to win a Stayers Hurdle and a Liverpool Hurdle is remarkable. And yeah, like you say, you couldn't write this horse off at Punchestown at all. He's thriving at the moment. So tease up a nice race at Punchestown with the likes of Tia Hoopu coming back in, and Bob Ollinger, I imagine, will be there. So yeah, looking forward to seeing the old boy try and go for the hat trick.
Yeah, part of a sensational hybrid operation. Joseph, of course, known more for his flat stuff, obviously, because of his dad, and he's a Group 1 winner every year on the flat as well. But to see him picking up these big Grade 1s, especially with an 11-year-old, is fantastic. It doesn't necessarily leave us in a good position for next season, of course, Cotty, because if an 11-year-old's picking up the Stayers prizes now, it just makes you think, well, what do I want to back next year for a Stayers hurdle, for an Aintree hurdle, or for a Liverpool hurdle? Like, it leaves the division in a bit of a wayward position, but you can take nothing away from how good Home by the Lee was in Liverpool.
Yeah, no, travelled probably. Sometimes it's a flat spot, doesn't it? And then just kind of plugs on in the places. But no, there was none of that. I didn't run around Liverpool on Saturday like an 11-year-old. That's for sure. I believe I backed Jinko Blue in this for the Nicky Henderson team after the Coral Cup success at Cheltenham. Seemed to have every chance at 2 out really, but just made a bit of a mess of it. Came back on the bridle pretty much straight away, and then just didn't find much. But I wouldn't lose hope on that horse. That might be a horse to keep on side with next year, maybe for the Stayers or something. But yeah, Home by the Lee will be 12 for the Stayers next year. So yeah, it's probably big problems if that goes in again. But you like to see a hooper and whatnot, and hopefully the ground is a bit more softer come this time next year, and then the proper national and better horses normally come to the front of the rank then, don't they? But yeah, I guess time will just tell.
Yeah, all credit to Home by the Lee for winning yet another massive 3-mile Grade 1 campaign there, but just be interesting. I think it's probably going to be the most difficult of the 4 divisions to figure out next season in terms of long-term targets, winners, etc. when we do manage to go back to the spring festivals at the Cheltenham Festival next year. The Randox Grand National Handicap Chase was at 4 o'clock on Saturday, as it is these days. 34 took part, I believe 16 of them got round, and it was a return to greatness for the great Willie Mullins, Paul Townend, JP McManus, and Am Maximus. He won the race in 2024. He's the first horse since Red Rum to regain that crown, and doing so off the top weight of 11 stone 12. On the morning lines, I believe it was 9-1, went off the eventual 9-2 favourite. That was the start of a rout from JP McManus, who was second with Aroka, who flew home in the latter stages to get within 2.5 lengths. Jordan's, I'm sure someone's going to talk about the ride from Ben Jones. He flew for home, 3 out, and unfortunately wasn't able to get home. Johnny Who rounded off the places. Another one for JP McManus, who won at the Cheltenham Festival, and then High Class Hero at a monster price in 5th. I Am Maximus. Matty, I mean, I've seen horses in the last 15-20 years that have been campaigned as big Grade 1ers and they've gone on to win big handicaps, but obviously this is the biggest of the handicaps. A horse who won an Irish National a couple of years ago, then turned up next year to Aintree and won it, second last year, first this year. If you're talking about modern consistent lines, be it for a race that wasn't what it was like when Red Rum was running over the fences 50 years ago, he is the closest I think we've all seen, and an unbelievable ride from Paul Townend to get this up off top weight.
Yeah, brilliant. Willie Mullins said after that, he was keen to go the Gold Cup with his horse this year, but JP was the one that really wanted to stick at the National, and it just shows how highly this horse is thought of. But to get him absolutely, peaked and primed for this race again was superb. I think it was the festival of the revolution of cheek pieces. He was another one, had first time cheek pieces on, and absolutely thrived in them, just helped him travel a bit better. I mean, there was a lot of late money for him, and obviously there was a massive bet taken for him. And the minute you saw it went off 9-2 favourite, you kind of thought, wow, this must be. We've seen this before with JP McManus, and but again for Paul to give him such a cool ride, stayed out of any trouble, didn't panic at any point. I think when he probably did see Ben Jones kicking clear 4 furlongs from home, Paul must have just been giggling to himself because he knew he was going to get a toe into the race, and he did. And between the last and the elbow, Paul just filled him up, and he's gone to the elbow, and Paul's asked of him, and God, he picked up and he put it to bed so quickly. I know Iroko stayed on, but the race was done by that point, remarkable performance. And you'd imagine he'll go back there again next year, and it'd be tough to put you off him at the moment. I thought overall it was a good race. It had kind of everything a national should have. As there was drama, luckily all the horses are fine. There's a couple that have come out with a few niggles, but all returned home, and it proves that the course and the fences still do take some jumping, not what they were, but I think the birch is flying everywhere. It's still a lot for a horse to take in, and a horse like a Panic Attack, she didn't really take to it. She did get a bump at the start as well, but then she unseated Harry at the third, I think, and she ran down to one loose the next and literally just swerved away from it. So she obviously didn't enjoy the occasion or the fences as and she wasn't the only horse. There were a few others that were disappointing as well, but no, the winner was superb. And I think Iroko's a bit of a head scratcher. He went off 18-1 in the end, which I thought was massive, and flew home. Maybe perhaps a bit of softer ground is what's needed for him. It all happens a bit quick and then he stays on. But again, he's got youth on his side. You think he's 2 years younger than Am Maximus, so he'll go and have another crack next year. I imagine his season is already mapped out. It'll be the race at Ascot and other bits and pieces. But the winner was very good, and I'll leave Cott to talk about the ride that Jordan's got. I think
the floor is yours, Cotty.
Yeah, I'm not going to be as critical as the majority of the keyboard warrior brigade on Twitter and whatnot. I mean, I'm not a jockey, so I wouldn't know if it makes a massive difference or not. However, the way Am Maximus finished, I don't think Paul Townend hit Am Maximus till he was upsides Jordan's. I don't think he was, cajoling the horse along, and it was just picking up just through, just more riding out more than getting aggressive and using the stick. So, I mean, whether that was he was allowed to do that because Ben Jones went for home so early, he had something to go at. But I mean, I don't know if Ben Jones holded on, I don't know, 20 seconds earlier, would it have made it? I'm not too sure. I think he probably would have got second instead of third. But
I get the impression with Ben Jones that he had to make that decision because he knew that Am Maximus and Iroko and Johnny Hewen, etc., were all behind him. If I try and win this in a dogfight, an absolute stayers contest from where I am, I've got no chance. So I've got to be able to try and do something innovative. The gamble hasn't paid off, but ultimately, I think that the criticism was just being absolutely hyperventilated.
Yeah, I mean, if you look back at the form of Jordan's, it wasn't very appealing. It was 28-1 and whatnot. If it was, if Ben Jones going out and said, "Look, you're going to come third, and you jump the last in front," he probably would have said happy days, wouldn't he? So I'm sure he'd be saying to himself, "What if I did this, and what if and." But he could be saying that if he fell at the first fence when he got it on the wrong stride. So it's one of those. I just think the way. It's there's no fluke that Am Maximus won that race because he's won it 3 years. He won it 2 years ago and he came second last year. So, a lot of people will question the ride, but I think, if he delayed his challenge 20, 30 seconds, a horse could have fell in front of him or whatnot. So, it might have been the difference of second or third, but I think albeit the best horse in the race won. As I said earlier on in the podcast, my selection fell at the first, and I think as soon as it hit the deck, I said, because I was so confident Grange Clare West was going to win, and the only horse that I thought we were up against was Am Maximus. I couldn't really give like the likes of Panic Attack and Jaguar much of a chance. I basically just said then Am Maximus is not a certainty, but if I was on that now, I'd be rubbing my hands together, and I think I looked after 3 fences. It was 5-2. So
Were you tempted to have a bit of an in-play bet on him when Grange-Clare went if the price was good enough?
if I had a spare 20 quid in the betting account, I would have, but there wasn't anything in there at the time, so I just thought I'll just let it run. But yeah, after 3 fences, there was probably 30 still standing at that point, and you're 5-2. It just shows what caliber of horse you're working with, trainer and jockey. I'd imagine he'll have one more crack at it again next year, and I think you'd be a brave man to take him on.
Yeah, I've got no intentions of doing that. I thought that everything that Paul Townend did on Am Maximus kind of reflects on just how good a jockey we are talking about now. His second Grand National, Willie's third or fourth, I believe, and JP's third or fourth for the pair of them. I just was in awe, really, of how he was okay with Ben Jones doing what he did, thinking, I'm going to get you. I've been there the whole way around. Funnily enough, with Am Maximus' jumping this time compared to last year and 2 years ago, I didn't think was unbelievable. He smashed through beaches the second time round, and there was a couple of skeward jumps, but he never really lost too much momentum. And obviously, in a race that's 4.25 miles, you've got time to make mistakes, and as long as you're prominent enough, you're going to be there, and that's going to be good enough for you. Equally, I was on Grange-Clare West like Cotty was, and that was very, very unfortunate, because when your main selection goes down at the first of the National, it doesn't become as good a watch, unfortunately. But
I'm pretty sure it happened to me the year before as well.
Did it?
I can't remember what I bet the year before, but I'm sure I fell at the first last year as well.
Makes it such a shit watch when that happens, I think, because I'm looking at it thinking, oh, great. I've now got to watch an 8-minute race I've basically not got a bet on. Final Orders was the best of the ones wrong for me eventually. He finished 7th, 21 lengths behind. So he ran a very good National, to be fair, and he's one I'll be very keen on for the cross-country events and whatnot over 3-4 miles next season. But
I did find it interesting. We were playing golf Saturday morning, and lad we were going round with said Am Maximus is 7-4 to start the Grand National favourite. I couldn't get my head around the price.
Well, it was in tatters at one stage, wasn't it? Because there was so much money coming for Panic Attack.
Panic Attack got pummeled in, didn't she?
But Am Maximus was always at the off going to go off favourite.
Yeah. Eventually she was.
I couldn't believe it was 7-4. I think Jaguar was like 11-8 to go off favourite. I couldn't wrap my head around it.
Whichever horse JP wanted to go off favourite would have gone off favourite.
Yeah,
the key to that market.
Because of course there was a anonymous bet taken at about 1 o'clock in the afternoon with Johnny Deneen for £100,000 at 8-1. Of course, we don't know who put that bet down. But like Matty just said there, if JP wanted that horse to go off favourites, there's a fairly good chance it was his £100,000, wasn't it? But I'd
have a lot of money on it to say that it would be his money. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't be laying you 40-1 for that one. Am Maximus took the Grand National there from Morocco, and Jordan's Johnny Who in the places to round off Aintree. What a fantastic couple of days racing that was. On to then this week's Big Five. Lovely stuff. Right, we've got 5 races to take you through from for the rest of this week. A couple of flat races to kick you off before we head into air for the Scottish Grand National to wrap up their proceedings up across the border. First race we'll take you to then. It is the Craven meeting across the next few days. It started today. It runs right through to Thursday. The feature, you wouldn't believe it, is the Betway Craven Stakes. It's a Group 3 Class 1 event for 3-year-olds over the Rowley Mile. Aidan O'Brien, of course, the greatest to ever do it, has his first big favourite from Newmarket across the season. That is Hawk Mountain, chasing a 4-timer after a fantastic 2-year-old season, is 9-4. Couple in there for Godolphin. Charlie Appleby's his hidden force at 11-4 was impressive on the dart a few weeks ago. Can he replicate that here? And Avicenna, Roger Varian trains that one for Godolphin at 5-1. Big prices about the other 4 in the race. I'll come to you first then. Cotty, Hawk Mountain. Very impressive 2-year-old as part of the stable. It always seemed to get this right. Of course, won the futurity at the end of the season from Doncaster on what would have been very dead ground. Fantastic ride that was from Ronan Whelan that day. Obviously, it's a huge step up here to go from 2 to 3, but if you're going to do it with anybody, you're going to do it with Aidan O'Brien, these colours, and Ryan Moore. 9-4 to beat the 2 Godolphin horses. What do you fancy?
Yeah, interesting enough race for a Thursday afternoon. I'd much rather, I think the key factor for me in this race is I'd much rather back an Aidan O'Brien horse in June than I would in April. So I'm happy to leave the favourite. Having a quick look into Hidden Forces form, albeit he's only had 2 runs, but I think the run last time out at Kempton, he was a 1-4 favourite. Was a big £30,000 pot. I think he's got a ticket to the Kentucky Derby or something. You'll know, you'll know more than me about that. But was sent off 1-4, which is pretty crazy, really, because there was only 4 runners. The second won a nice maiden at Newbury, a Class 2, was very well gambled on that day. I remember that well. I was on it that day. And then the third, Tad G for Archie Watson. That horse has come out and come second in a Class 2 round around Wolverhampton. Beat a horse called Comical Point, who's a decent enough horse. Came 5th in a Norfolk at Royal Ascot, and then run some creditable races in a Grade 2 and a listed race round York last summer as well. So there wasn't many runners last time out at Kempton, and it was a 4-runner race, and he was 1-4, so he should go in. But I thought there was probably a bit of depth to that race, and he did it nicely enough. And William Buick and Charlie Appleby had 2 short price favourites today at Newmarket, and they both went in. So the yard's in decent nick, and I thought 11-4 was probably a fair enough price, and I'd imagine it'll be near the 2-1 mark on the day.
Yeah, hopefully we can put enough money on that to make it that case. I'm going to agree with you. I think Hidden Force is probably the one to win here. Of course, he's got to find a stone on the 2-year-old ratings of Hawk Mountain, but there's a lot to like about this Hidden Force. It's one of the few Frankles remaining, especially for Godolphin. And I know it was more a bit of a job done at a short price last time out at Kempton, but the experience he will have learned just getting that run under his belt as a 3-year-old is very impressive. Lightly raced twice in the last 3 months, so he's kept away as a 2-year-old, and I hope that there's a lot of improvement to come here. I think your statement's pretty fair that you want to be back in Aidan's horses in June, July when the Derby's on, and the early part of the season, Godolphin do like to get theirs on the board early, and hopefully this Hidden Force is open to enough improvement to do that at a decent price. Any for you in the Craven, Matty?
I thought that I could be butchering this, but Hankulo for Carl Burke and Clifford Lee. Just thought at the price probably had a chance. The only course and distance winner in the field. We know that Newmarket can be a tricky track, especially for the 3-year-olds, very undulating. We know this horse handles it. Actually beat the second Godolphin horse that day at Avicenna, the variant horse. So has been drifting since Dex, so that's not ideal. But Carl Burke normally does strike quite early on in the season. His form's a bit hit and miss, but this would be one of his first notable runners of the season. So hopefully he can kick off taking the Craven.
Lovely. Hankelo there for you for the fantastic Carl Burke. Runs the North Sea and takes his horses over to Newmarket this week. Over to the Saturday cards then. We've got Newbury to take you through first. The 235 on theirs is the Dubai Duty Free Finest Surprise Stakes, known as the John Porter. That's another Group 3 for 4-year-olds and above, over 1 mile and 4 furlongs for the middle distance contenders. Carl Burke, who Matty's just tipped a horse up for, has the favourite here in Convergent. Very busy 4-year-old at 130. Alas, he goes there for Shadwell, who would dominate this race, and particularly he does. The 9-year-old is 4-1. Pride of Aris, who won the Dante last year, is 4-1. And Constitution Hill is ended here at 5-1. Whether he goes or not, being the ground is a good side already. And Nicky Henderson said with concern that's probably going to be an issue for him. Is one to kind of take a note for when we get to declarations on Thursday. It's been our last season's race in the last couple of years, Cotty, and there'll be plenty of people that just say he will go in again, but he's 9 years of age now, and the form figures outside Newbury not fantastic, but Mark One's going to take the ride here for Shadwell, and a lot of people will be pretty keen that this is just going to go and win again.
Bold enough statement. I thought it was a tricky enough race here. I was quite puzzled at the fact that Convergent is priced in favourite here.
Yeah, that's shocking, isn't it, to me? 130.
It wasn't too far ago. He was winning a novice stakes round Redcar, and I get horses improved, but was sent off odds on to win a Group 1 at Munich and was 7th of 8th. You know, Alassi is a classy enough horse. Have you said you've got Pride of Arrows in here? That's he won that big race, didn't he? The Dante
Dante, yeah.
at York, and also won the Great Voltager, which was a decent enough race as well. Beat Lambourne. Lambourne won the Derby, didn't it? So turned over the Derby favourite, and he's a bigger price to beat Convergent. But the form I'm in, Convergent will probably win by 2 or 3 lengths hard held. But yeah, I think Pride of Arrows at 4-1. He's a very in and out sort of horse. He either shows his running or he doesn't. But the fact that he's 2 out of 2 at York.
I think he's a bit of a York specialist personally. Like you look at the other runs from the Corran Epsom and he's been blown
He
out
could be,
twice.
but I think if there's a flat track, you know, York long straight, big bends, left-handed, you know, you're getting the same gist
sure.
with Newbury. That's kind of the kind of what I'm going with and running with. So we'll see how it plays out. But you know, in terms of the race, it wouldn't be a betting race. I probably won't even back Pride of Arrows. But for a selection on the Big Five, I'd say that would be the likeliest winner.
There you go, Pride of Arrows for Cotty. Matty, Constitutional for you?
Oh, he's not going to run, is he? I think we're gonna have this problem all summer. It's going to be very frustrating. He's going to be entered, and they just won't run him. I think there has to be soft in the description, and we're not going to get that realistically through the summer. I don't think, but you know, like
if
you said before,
you're going to get it, it's going to be this weekend. So like the further into the summer
well,
we go, the less likely is to run.
yeah, exactly. I just think this is going to be a frustrating summer for fans of this horse, but that's what we're going to have to deal with. I thought Phantom Flight in here. William Buick booked for George Scott 8-1. Won a couple of weeks ago over in Bahrain. I mean, I know he's going to have to step up on that to win this, but he's had some good battles with Al Arsi in the past. He's beaten him. He's finished second to him. He's only a 7-year-old against Al Arsi, like you say, is 9-year-old now. He's up there on ratings, and 8-1 I think's a big price, and obviously a very eye-catching jockey booking. Whenever you see William Buick not in the all blue, he must be a horse that he thinks has a right good chance. So yeah, I thought Phantom Flight would have a good opportunity here.
In there at 8-1 for you, I've gone for an even bigger price for this because I think, like what you said, there is a bit of a wide open affair. To be honest, I think it's not probably the deepest of Group 3s, but I ended up on Lion's Pride here, and I believe Ryan Moore's going to take the ride there for the Gosdens on the weekend as well. This has been more of a horse that you want to follow the form lines for. A couple of seasons ago, when Kalpana began her route towards becoming one of the best middle distance campaigners in the world, was second at Kempton. Since then, has fallen behind the likes of Military Order, Royal Champion, be it placed efforts behind that. Went over to Doha and was 6-7, but only 4 lengths out of the picture there on Valentine's. And I get the impression with Lion's Pride, he is going to keep progressing. He is 6 years of age. He's got his mark up to 113, which is a career high now for him. And I think there is opportunity for this horse to continue to keep going here. The Gosdens have a lovely record at both Newbury and middle distance contests, and I agree with Cotty that Convergent is an awful price at the top of the market. I think 130 doesn't represent any value. Alassi could well go and win this again, but he is 9 and blew up against Hamish last time at Newbury. Pride of Arras, I think, is a bit of a York specialist. Constitution Hill won't come here, so I took the top of the mark out, and I thought I'll have a crack at one at a bigger price there, and that's why I landed up on Lion's Pride to hopefully manage to go and win the John Porter. That's the flat action out of the way. Then we've got 3 more races to take you through from Ayr on Scottish National Saturday. The first of those is the 220, the Coral Scottish Champion Hurdle. That's a limited handicap Grade 2 event, Class 1, over 2 miles. 7-2 the field, and that is with Dan Skelton's Tell Her the Name. Ran 6 weeks ago to no effect, but looks to come here as the favourite to win this off 10 stone 6. Krishma's in there for JP McManus, who's of course having the best of time recently. Kraken Rhapsody loves it round this place as 7s. Big prices about the rest. You wouldn't look at the numbers with any sort of great confidence, would you, Cotty, here? Tell her by the name, 4P530, but comes off with sort of relatively decent mark. A lot of heavy money coming open at 7s, is all the way down to 7-2. Could this once again be fantastic placing from Dan Skelton?
Yeah, I think the money might have come. I did see a clip of him schooling at home or something, or or on the gallops, and someone said that is an absolute machine, or something along those lines. So I'd imagine that's probably punters latching onto that more than Schroeder's getting involved. But I could be wrong. I think Charisma's quite interesting in here. Has been spoken quite highly of throughout its short career. It was second in a novice hurdle at the Punchestown Festival. And then ever since then, I think it's been a horse that's been up in the radar for a top horse. Was disappointing at Calso, but was running well at the time before making a bad error. So yeah, you could put a line through that. Disappointing is probably the wrong word. At 6-1, Cracking Rhapsody. It's been around. I can't believe the horse is only 7. Really, it seems to run a fair whack. He'd be a little bit disappointed if that was to be a.
Won this last year, did he? I think as well.
I think he's won it 2 years on a bounce, hasn't he?
2 now, isn't it?
Oh really?
Mm-hmm.
I think so.
I remember the celebrations last year, them all going mental.
Well, yeah, if Cracking Rhapsody wins the Scottish Champion Hurdle 3 times in a row, then
no, sorry, yeah, he's only won it. Has only won it once. I think he might have won the Moor Battle and then the Scottish Champion Hurdle. But yeah, he's definitely paid his fees.
Yeah, I just think the way Charisma's been held in quite high regard, then I'd like to think that he'd put Cracking Rhapsody to the side. But apart from that, I thought it was a pretty weak enough field, really. Willful, who won the county hurdle off 11 stone 12. I was watching the racing earlier. John Joe Neal had a winner, and he said that this horse might go to Punchestown. So that's not a definite runner, but if it was to run, then I'd probably play Willful each way as well. I thought that that run at Cheltenham was quite impressive.
The quite generously treated Krishma there will go off 10 stone 1 here as the 6-1 current for JP Manus Nicky Henderson. There was a lot of good, nice words there for Cracking Rhapsody. Yeah, you might get the impression that you're on here. Of course, there's money for a Dan Skelton horse, and you always look at these and think, I wish I was on at 7s, but I wouldn't mind still being on, because 7-2 winner is still a 7-2 winner.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the horse's first run for Dan was in the county when he's down the field. I imagine they've probably learned quite a lot about the horse from just that first run, and they feel that this is the next step for it. So, like you say, you'd be silly to take it on, but based on the form, I think I will take it on. Happy to have egg in my face on that one. But I liked Captain Hugo for Hobson Johnson White team. Philip Hobbs won this race 3 times before. This horse very unexposed. Won the Moor Battle last time, which I always think is a very good race, very competitive. 17 runners there was, so I think the form should stand up. He also beat Sinatra in a novice hurdle, in a maiden hurdle at Newbury at the start of the season. And Sinatra obviously ran very well in the Grade 1 at Aintree the other day. So I think that form's solid. Behind Taurus Bay, another good horse at Aintree. So I think he comes into this. He's still very unexposed, and he's got 10 stone 8 at the moment. If Willful doesn't run, that's likely to go up, but he's not going to have to carry too much weight. And yeah, like I say, ticks plenty of boxes for me. Cracking Rhapsody must have a great chance. He ran a career best in this last year. Trained by Willie Mullins, who is Scottish. I imagine this has been this horse's target all year, so he'll be absolutely primed for it. But I think Captain Hugo is just very unexposed and might have a little bit more to offer than Cracking Rhapsody on this occasion.
Very nice. And Son Olivey was the one that I ended up on here at 10s. Pretty good season for Formlands anyways. He's picked up a pair of wins. He was second at Kempton earlier on in the season to Old Park Star, who of course went on to win the Supreme. Got blown out a little bit in Newbury the last day, but other than that, it's been a pretty good consistent season for this horse, and I think that there's still opportunity here. He's 130 rated now, 10 stone 3. Santos and Davis will ride for his dad and brother, and that was about kind of the scope I had for this. I didn't want to be on something at too big a weight in a contest like this, but thought there was opportunity at the very least to try and pick one up at a decent price. Before we get on to the Scottish National, we're going to do the very first in Big Five history and go back in time because one of us missed a race. I won't point at him. But we're going to take you back to the 145 from Ayr, which is the CPMS Novices Champion Handicap Chase. That's a Class 2 event over 3 miles. It's 5-1 the field, and Matty's dying to give you his tip, so he's going to do exactly that now. And it's going to be just overland.
It's not going to be just overland, Bob. No, next one down. I'm not sure how I pronounce this. Dusan Frey, yeah, for the Anthony Honeyball team. Sam Twiston Davis jocked up. Always a good jockey booking for me. Sam was down the field last time in the plate, but went off a big enough price that day, and might just be a bit of prep run for hopefully this. The run before is what really interests me. Third behind Look Away, who was probably one of the sickest beats I had over Aintree. I was absolutely I was livid when that got beat. I thought I was very sweet on it on the pod, and got done by a scout and plot job. But anyway, yeah, and this horse got some solid form, and he beat Kim Rock, who's favourite for the Scottish National later on in the card. And he's ran very consistently before. But yeah, I really like that third behind Look Away, only beaten 2.5 lengths. Very unexposed over 3 miles still. And I thought 12-1 was way too big of a price. Obviously, Dan and Harry Skelton have the favourite in here, Diamond Dealer, but he's had a busy enough season, and you know, he's quite exposed at 3 miles. So I've tried to find something that might have a bit more improvement to come. And if you're going to judge purely off form, then Newton Tornado's got to be the winner, because he normally either falls or pulls up and then wins next time. He pulled up last time at Cheltenham, so he's probably going to go and win this time.
Fair enough, though. Dosan Frey for you there at 12-1. Cotty, the Novices Champion Handicap Chase. I don't know how they came up with this, but have you got the winner for us?
Yeah, there's two I actually quite like in this. Quebecois for the Nichols team off top weight ran a very good race at the Cheltenham Festival last time out in the Ultima. The winner was Johnny Who. That's obviously came out and come 4th in the Grand National. Frank the Form, the 4th in the race, Blow Your Wad, who absolutely flew up the hill. That's come out and won at Chepstow. So the form's in the book. It's 13-2. You know, it's not been at the top 4 in its last 5 runs, so normally runs an honest race. I don't mind that as an each way. And then another one that I thought was quite interesting is Milkree for the Nicky Richards team, 16-1. I believe the last 9 horses he sent out, 8 of them have won and 1 of them has fell. Pulled up last time out at Utoxeter, but apparently it bled from the nose. Horse that looks to be improving. Prior to that, won 2 in a row and 1 round air as well. So has got course form. If they've got to the got to the bottom of as to why the horse bled from the nose, and if they can get past that, it's off a mark of 128, and it might be a little bit better than that prior to his 2 victories before. It might just still be on an upwards curve.
Top weight there, Quebecois there for the Nichols team for you, and Milkree at a big price for the late great Trevor Hemmings. There we go. One race to take you through, and it's the big race of the weekend, the 335s, the Coral Scottish Grand National Handicap Chase. That's a premier Class 1 event for 5-year-olds and above over the long 4 miles. Typically a dramatic race, it certainly was last year. It's an Irish domination at the top. Kim Rock at 6-1. King of Answers for the local Lucinda Russell and Michael Scudamore team at 6 as Road to Home as Willie Mullins, big charge here. Typically has bigger teams, there's no need this year with the trainers title done at 8 and 10-1 bigger prices about the Scottish. Matty, I've loved Kim Rock all season. I've been backing and hammering him, and he's been good for place money. He hasn't really got his head up yet, but the mark still seems pretty good on 10-13, 130 rated, and this will be very, very much a target for Joseph O'Brien for quite some time. Can he do it at the top for the owners?
I think he's definitely got a great chance. I think he's just a bit too short in a race like this for me to put up as a tip. But he's going to carry quite a little weight, which ticks boxes for previous winners of this race. And And like I say, I like the form that he's shown this year. Like you say, he's been fancied a hell of a lot of times. I think every time he's ran at Cheltenham, he's been really well fancied. Look, I think if Paul Townend comes over to ride Road to Home, that will tell you all you need to know, and I think that'll end up going off favourite. He's no jockey bookings yet, so I'm gonna presume he's not coming over. But if he does, I'll probably side with him because if Paul comes over for a ride and a handicap, it normally tells you everything you need to know. But I thought that there's another Irish horse further down. Jarive de l'Est for Am Mullins. Currently no jockey booking. There has been a bit of support in the market for this horse. He was really well backed for the Midlands National at Uttoxeter, where he pulled up that day. Disappointing. There's no real explanation for that, so you've just kind of got to forgive him for that. But his second behind Favre de Champdou, and he was second also behind Final Orders in both the cross country races at Cheltenham, where he went off favourite both times. Hopefully, just back on a bit of better ground, it might just suit this horse. We know he's going to stay the trip. Jumping's not an issue. I just think he's massively overpriced here at 14-1. James Bowen took the ride last time. I wouldn't mind seeing James on, or maybe even Sean potentially jocked up. That'd be a big plus. But just hoping back on a sounder surface around over this trip could really suit this horse. So yeah, Jarive de l'Est for me, and Road to Home if there's a notable jockey booking.
There we go, then Jarive de l'Est there for Am Mullins. Split my units on the two Sam Thomas horses here, Katate, Dorian, Our Power.
There we go. There we go.
You don't fix what's not broken in this sport.
They're not both going to run though, Bob.
No, Dylan Johnston's on the pair, so I just thought I'll stick both of them up, and whichever one goes on can have my money. Of the two, I've always kind of had more of a preference for Katate Dori, but they're both level marks now. Well, 135, 137. I don't think Dylan Johnston takes 3 off anymore, does he? No, I don't believe so. So very simple for me. Don't fix what's not broken. His horses are always fantastically handicapped. The further they get, the better they seem to go. 2 good perennial contenders who've had decent enough seasons. Katate Dori, a little bit more disappointing perhaps, but I know what he's capable of. He's only 8. Fits all the trends to win a Scottish National, so one of those two's going to win. Simple as. Who's actually going to win the
of late, Sam Thomas, though. That's the only thing that put me off those two. Bob, He's normally fires early on in the season, but
Willie Mullins had a bad Christmas. What's your point?
Okay, yeah, good response.
There you go.
Tell you're itching to get to poker, so let's get on with
it. Who actually wins? Who actually wins the Scottish National?
Oh, I thought this was a race that lacked a real standout horse. I think for the prize money of 112 grand, I thought there might be an absolute. I suppose Mullins can't win the title now, but if he was, then I think a couple of trainers might have missed a trick here. I think it's a pretty weak enough field really for a Scottish National, I'd probably say. I thought it was a hard race to work out. I mean, I don't really fancy any with any much conviction. Maybe there's one at the bottom of the market, Val Dancers, 33-1. Has been around the block. Has won a Welsh Grand National before. Charlie Hammond keeps the ride, rides this horse a lot. Knows the horse inside and out. It was pulled up at Bangor last time out, and the trainer said that it would prefer a slower going from good to soft. So if it rains in Scotland, which it normally does, and there's a big downpour and we get soft ground, then yeah, maybe that might be one. But you'd definitely be looking for the extra places on that one. And then a horse I always back, and I don't know if it's ever won, but it hasn't won for a very long time. I know is Gitmaker. Yeah, was third last time out at Uttoxeter over 4 mile 2 in the Midlands Grand National. I did think for one point it was going to win, but if there's one thing this horse is good at, it's staying. So yeah, if the ground came up soft again, then I think the market would see some money for that horse. And Yeah, I'll probably play both of them, but it'll be maximum places and minimal stake.
You want the good news or the bad news about Gidmaker?
I'll have the good news first.
Well, the good news is he has won 6 races in his career as a 10-year-old. The
Has he
bad
won in the
news
last
hasn't been-
5? Has he won in the last 5 years?
3. That's not too bad.
Yeah,
He's over 9 since, but you know he won at Lingfield in a Class 3 in November of 2023. So extreme form lines to take there.
yeah, probably explains the horrid state of the Monzo bank account at the minute.
Lovely. Bit disappointing that the field hasn't even filled out. They've got 25 or 30 pre-decks that could come down another 5 or 6. It's a very light national, but we've kind of alluded to it there. Dan Skelton's on his honeymoon, and Willie Mullins has no interest in sending horses across that he doesn't need to. So it makes for an opportunity for the likes possibly of Joseph O'Brien, Lucinda Russell to pick up the pieces. Lovely. That is this week's Big 5 racing done. Our naps will be available over on our social medias too for our best bets from the weekend coming. How are we going to finish this one off this weekend? Matty, who are the pairs going to beat up this weekend? I haven't even checked who you're playing.
They've got a bye this week, so no game for the pairs. And then it's on to Kent at home starting next Friday. So
they're bad at the minute. They're really bad.
Cricket free weekend for me. Yeah,
you've got Zach Crawley averaging 22 in Division 2, but it's all right because he'll play for England in the summer. You work that one out. Lovely, fantastic. Cotty, this weekend's planned. You had a bit of a heavy one last week. I'm sure you're still recovering, but Saturday is 4 whole days away. So recuperate, and then what's the plans?
There is talks of golf in Hereford, but the leave time's 6:30 in the morning. So I'm not too sure. Hopefully, I might be able to get up to Villa Park on Sunday. Got Sunderland at home, so I might be eyeing up going up there, but no, apart from that, save myself for the birthday weekend next weekend.
Yeah, very nice. Huge weekend of football. City Arsenal on Sunday. Very excited for that one to hopefully crash bottle the league for them. Fantastic, boys. Thank you for coming on. A nice little hybrid there. We took you through the best part of Aintree. Of course, some good racing in the week from Newmarket. Enjoy the Craven meeting if you're watching on ITV like we will be. Then we're on to air at the weekend for the Scottish National. Some good racing coming up over the next few weeks. We are not too far away from the Guineas as well. And we'll have plenty of action from the jumps as well. The likes of Punchestown, Sandown still to come as well. So there's plenty to look forward to. For Matty Blackmore, for Harry Cottrell, my name's been Harrison Ferris. Thank you for joining us for the last 60 minutes here on the Big 5 Racing Podcast. Have a great weekend, folks, and we'll see you next week.